Hello there. Before we start this episode, we have two little disclaimers. Number one is that we will be talking about the scale in this episode. And if that is a troubling topic for you, please feel free to skip on by this episode. We totally understand it is not right for everyone. Number two, we had a couple of sound difficulties in this episode. Might have hit the mic a few times or 10. So we know it. You know it. Get ready for it. It's still a great episode, and hope you enjoy.
Hello, and welcome to the audio version of a before and after photo, another episode of We Only Look Thin. I am one of your hosts, both before and after, and my name is Donald Weigel, and I have lost about 100 pounds. And with me, as always, is...
Catherine Weigel, a Tiny Habits certified coach, wife, podcaster, bon vivant.
I don't even know what that is.
It's not what I am. My picture is not.
I've heard people say bon vivant many times in my life, and I've never stopped to actually figure out what that is.
It's not me. It's someone with much more robust joy, and anyway, we can look that up later.
Joie de vivre?
Yeah, a little bit of joie de vivre.
Joie de vivre, yeah, my French is not good.
It's fine, but yeah, I'm Catherine. I have lost about 145 pounds, and you can hear it in my voice.
Yes, you can. I don't know. I'd like to tell people. Now we're gaslighting our audience into thinking they can hear it in your voice.
They can. So last week we started talking about the scale, and we are going to do it again. We talked about your relationship with the scale. We talked about the pros and cons of how frequently you weigh yourself.
Yeah.
And then we talked about how the most recent number on the scale might affect your mood.
Yes, indeed. And so this week, we're going to get into a little bit more of it, talking about the relationship between our mental image of how things should go and how they do go, and then also talk about valuing yourself based on the number on the scale.
Yep, and how to determine your goal weight.
Oh, yeah, that too. Yeah, if I actually paid attention to to my own notes, I would know that.
Yeah, but we often, I would for many, many years, I confused before and after pictures with a plan.
Yeah.
With just wanting, seeing the cover of the People magazine, down 100 pounds, amazing transformation.
Yeah.
And I would go, wow, that's what I want. And then I would, wish and pray, and then nothing would happen.
Yeah, and you look into a mirror and say Bloody Mary 3 times, and still the weight wouldn't come off.
I would never say that 3 times. I still have not. We were watching a TV show yesterday where someone was going to say that 3 times in a mirror, and it was a murder show. People are getting murdered everywhere. I'm fine with that. But just the idea of saying that word 3 times.
You're not even particularly superstitious, but...
I'm just normally stitious.
And yet that one, it makes me want to go in the mirror and do it live on this podcast right now.
No, not on my watch.
Not doing it?
No,
okay.
But they said it on the show, and I went in the corner of the room and covered my face because I just didn't want... That's just one mojo you do not, get in the way of, so...
Yeah, so doing that certainly doesn't help you magically lose weight, though. Hit your goal weight.
But even now, I think people see our before and now photos, or they go to our website, or, see things on Instagram. You see influencers who show those giant transformations, and you have this mental image because it's simple, right? It's the before and it's the now, and then it's done, and it's motivation and it's whatever.
Yeah.
But we imagine it as just a straight line. If you've ever done geometry, just an acute angle, just zipping down. I shouldn't mention geometry.
It really has nothing to do with angles at all. It's just a straight line.
But you imagine me at my heaviest weight, and then you see me now, and you think, oh, it was just then, and now it's now, and there's nothing in the middle but just a straight line going down. It's awesome. Yeah,
and I know that this is a bit of a tangent, and I apologize, but I there are a lot of those before and after photos on Instagram, by the way, that are not the same person. Like there are people out there who are trying to get you to subscribe to their Instagram and or do their one weird trick, crazy plan, and they steal like photos from like one woman and then another woman, and they put them next together, and like because they're wearing sort of similar outfits and they sort of kind of look like one another, but they're not actually them. Like there are lots of real before and after photos, but not all of them are real.
Well, and my photo was actually used as a like new slimming detox tea thing on some scam Instagram site. So don't believe everything that you see, or all of the ups and downs in between those photos.
Yeah, and you know, like Catherine was starting to say before I so rudely got us off on a tangent, you know, I used to look at those photos and it just seemed like the snap of a finger.
Yeah.
Like, and, you know, not realizing all of the hard work that went in between those two things and not realizing all of the ups and downs that happened between those two things. You look at a photo of the two of us, you know, we have this photo of the two of us in at State Line Casino in Nevada. And from 2003, when we both were
at our heaviest, for
basically
me.
At our heaviest. And then we took another photo a few years ago, and you just might imagine like, oh, well, in between, they just snapped their fingers and got there, and now they're fixed forever until they die.
Well, and I think the problem with the before and now photos is exactly that. It gives you the impression that, you know, Cinderella's fairy godmother, you know, bippity boppity booed, and then suddenly we lost the weight. And that's not at all. There were 15 years between the two photos that we're mentioning that you can't see, which is great. But we think it's an immediate before and it's an after. And so many times I saw that as a motivation. I would see a magazine cover. I would see someone who I hadn't seen in a year who had lost weight and go, oh my gosh, they lost 100 pounds. I could lose 100 pounds. That's what I'll do.
Yeah, for sure. And the other thing is, you know, people would say like, well, what did you do?
Yeah.
And they want me to say that I ate one piece of okra every day and the pounds just like flew off of me.
Or I stopped drinking Coke. Like that was my problem.
Right. That's all you had to do?
Yeah.
You know, it's like I did this weird exercise for 5 minutes a day and the pounds just came right off.
It burned the belly fat away.
Or I took this pill or whatever. And they don't want to hear that, well, I put sustainable habits in place one at a time. I started small and I built upon them over time. I can't even like finish the whole thing.
I was at our daughter's school and I had lost probably 60 pounds at the time. And a mom came up to me, you know, sort of agog. And was like, what did you do? And she made this stapling motion toward my stomach as though I had had surgery. And I said, oh, no, you know, just, you know, I walked to school every day and I started. And she could not get away from me fast enough. I don't think she ever spoke to me again because that is not very attractive.
That's not fun. That's not interesting.
But making those big, you know, broad gestures, and I've done this before too, of like, oh, I'm going to lose 50 pounds by my 50th birthday. Oh, I'm going to lose 22 pounds in 2022. I'm going to get to the weight from my high school driver's license again. All of these sort of big proclamations are not actually plans for success. Yet we see so many people wanting to make those big, you know, I don't like saying this, these audacious big choices and decisions or whatever. But it's
don't
not
let
actually,
her fool you. She says audacious all the time. It's like if I had a nickel for every time she said audacious.
But people want these big changes because they feel like that is motivating. It's catchy. It sounds good. And that's not actually a sustainable plan. Not to say that you can't lose that amount of weight, but that's not how I did it this last time because every time I did it before, the buzzword wouldn't work. Just saying it doesn't, you know, bring Bloody Mary to the
Yeah, there should be like a weight loss version of Bloody Mary.
50 pounds by 50, 50 pounds by 50. Exactly. Don't say it a third time.
Yeah, do not say it a third time. It will sabotage you. So, you know, this brings us to the question of how do you set your goal weight? And, you know, I now, with the benefit of hindsight, I have an answer to that question. But when I first started this time, I needed to lose about 100 pounds. I didn't actually know. Well, needed is actually probably the wrong word. I ended up, until I really got, comfortable and felt healthy, I lost 100 pounds, but I didn't know like where I needed to be. And I just sort of arbitrarily said to myself, I'll just, be ridiculous because I'll never hit it. I'll never, yes, I'll be audacious. See, there's another nickel for me.
Just saying that.
And I just said, well, I'll just set my goal weight in my app at 70 pounds. That's crazy. I'll never get there, but I'll just do it just because. And then, eventually 1 pound at a time, half a pound at a time, a tenth a pound at a time, I worked my way down there over the course of, a little over, I guess it was about a year and a half, and then managed to lose another 30 pounds, in the final, I don't know. I lost an average of about 6 pounds a week for 2 years, 6 pounds a week. I lost an average of about 1 pound a week for 2 years before I hit my goal weight.
Yeah. So I know when people are starting out in our support group, or when I see even doctors might say like, oh, well, you need to lose 75 pounds, or you need to lose 100 pounds, or you need to get to this BMI. It can feel so overwhelming because just saying it doesn't actually put a plan in place. And for me, I spent a lot of time, and I see other people who are just starting out saying, well, I want to get back to my pre-pregnancy weight. I want to get back to my high school weight. I want to get to my ideal BMI. Even though I haven't been at that weight in 30 years, that's what I'm going to shoot for. And it's this huge number without really a plan in place to get you there.
Yeah, or I'm going to lose 48 pounds by my 48th birthday, like that kind of thing.
Yeah, and I've done that too. And it can set us up for failure because, again, it's just not that plan. So I actually did a little something different this last time around.
You did?
I did.
Well, why don't you tell us what it was? I'm dying to know.
So on this last journey venture that I have been on, that I didn't know was a journey venture at the time.
Yeah. A lot of people say weight loss journey, and for some reason that makes me cringe and roll my eyes. I prefer saying weight loss adventure, which is probably
really annoying,
just as cringy and annoying. So we've compromised and say journey venture for those who might not know.
We sure have. So what I did this time, because if you go back to those early episodes where I talk about this last time, all I wanted to do was fit back into my jeans. That was my only goal. I didn't have this 100 by whatever, my 100th birthday.
I lose 100 by your 100th birthday. I love it.
But I just wanted to fit in my jeans, which I knew was about 3 to 5 pounds. That was it. That was my first goal. And I decided that this last time journey, all I would do was look at 5 pounds at a time. So when I was 250 pounds, all I put into my Fitbit calculator was I would like to be 245 pounds. That was my first goal.
Yeah.
Could I get there? Could I put habits in place to get myself there? And then I did. And then I set it another 5 pounds and another and another. I never at any point came up with this magical BMI, this magical, well, when I was in 6th grade, I weighed whatever.
Right.
I was just looking at what was right in front of me because I had put so much chaos in place over the last 20 years. I just decided, what if I did it differently? Like there was an episode of Seinfeld where George Costanza was like, what if I just do the opposite of what my instincts are?
Yeah. and everything went really well.
And it did. It went really well. And I said, okay, every single time in the past, I did a giant goal. What if I just do 5 pounds at a time? I also said I looked at my past history. Every time before that I had gained weight, after losing, I would quit. Like I was good on Weight Watchers.
Yeah.
I would lose. And then around week 6, I would gain. And that's when I would quit. And that's how I gained 100 pounds on Weight Watchers, is because I quit every time the number didn't go in my favor. This time I said, I'm not going to quit. Even if the number goes up, what would happen if I just kept going? And that's how I lost the 100 pounds, just 5 pounds at a time.
And setting those small goals really is better for your mental well-being when you're doing it. And, Catherine is a certified tiny habits coach. I have read BJ Fogg's book about tiny habits, and he talks in there about celebrating your tiny victories all the time. And it really does make a difference. If you set a goal, that is 100 pounds or 50 pounds, and you lose 5 and you feel like, oh, well, I've only gotten, 5% of the way there, 10% of the way there. It really is not the mental outlook that you need to keep going. But if you set a goal that is 5 pounds or 1 pound and you hit it and you celebrate that goal, then it is really motivating to keep going and continue, feeling that progress.
Well, and too, when you first started losing weight, I was very supportive of you and very happy. And I was like, wow, you're down 5 pounds. That's great. And you're like, don't be proud of me yet. Not until I get to my...
I did. I said that over and over again.
And so then I started saying, I can't wait to be proud of you. I so look forward to celebrating you.
Yeah, it was really good. I still enjoy that quite a bit.
So for me, I looked at 5 pounds at a time. And part of that, and sort of tying back to what Donald said, is Weight Watchers. When you do Weight Watchers, at least when I did it, they suggested setting your first goal as a 5% weight loss. Again, it's a small increment. And I would do that thing of like, well, I want to lose 75 pounds. I want to lose 100 pounds. Let's just look at 5%, see how you do, and then we can reassess from there. And thinking in those short terms, the 5 pounds or the 5% is much more sustainable. So I would go in that direction.
Yeah. And I think that we oftentimes run into people, and I was the same way, who just say like me, Catherine just brought it up. 5%, what's that going to do? And, you can't get to 100% until you get past that 5%. And I would, constantly go through all of these, diet and exercise plans, the shake, meal, shake, keto, etc., and be like, I'm just not losing the weight fast enough.
Oh my gosh.
And I don't know what my rush was.
I, for 20 years, wanted to lose weight fast. And then I wouldn't, if it was slow.
And then you'd do nothing.
Yeah. Oh, it's slow. I'm not going to do that. Oh, well, it would have been done by now if I had already just started.
And so, the difference between the person who, is trying to lose weight quickly, like I tried to lose weight quickly for, 20, 30 years, whatever it was, and ended up losing nothing or losing weight for a little bit and then gaining it back plus more. And it never resulting in where I wanted to be. It wasn't until I decided to consistently lose weight slowly that it actually paid off. Like I averaged about a pound a week for 2 years. And that wasn't a pound every week. Some weeks I lost nothing. Some weeks I gained a little bit. But it averaged out. And eventually, like a pound a week for 2 years is 100 pounds. Like it works out that way.
And now guess what? You've kept it off for 4 years. So that's twice as long as you were even losing. Yeah.
And it is, as long as you have an attitude going in of knowing that things aren't going to change and you have to continue to, do your habits, that it is much easier to keep it off than it is to get it off. So like once you're there, you can continue your habits and maintain that weight loss.
Well, and I think, too, the biggest shift for me was I thought about going on diets for 30 years. I'm on a diet.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't because it's a diet. That is the impatient, like, I just want to get there and then I'll be fixed viewpoint. But this time around, I finally realized I really need to change my lifestyle. I need to stop blaming the world for my problems. I need to stop eating my emotions all the time. So becoming patient and really designing my lifestyle to support healthier habits has been the big shift, because I really don't think of it as a diet. I think about it as my lifestyle, and making that shift, potato, but it's that patient lifestyle yields slow results over time. And the impatient diet mentality is, well, no, that's not going to work. Like, oh no, well, I got to wait until the summer comes, and oh, well, but isn't there some other way? Like, oh, I just don't have the right recipe. I didn't get 145 pounds more than I am right now because of a recipe problem. I had a compulsive eating problem and an emotional eating problem.
And, I think that we tend to have this all or nothing attitude about many things in life. And I think maybe especially weight loss. And we fall into this trap of, well, if I can't lose all the weight right now quickly, then I'm just going to do nothing instead of just consistently. Like if you lose half a pound a month, that's 6 pounds a year. That's, 36 pounds, 30 pounds in 5 years, 36 pounds in 6 years. If you lose a pound a month, you're even doubling that rate. And where would you rather be 5 years from now? Would you rather be 50 pounds down because you lost it, 1 pound a month or a half a pound a month? Or would you rather be where you are now? Or would you rather gain weight? Like, what is the alternative? Like, why not lose it slowly and less painfully? Like anytime I tried to do any sort of severe diet, it was painful and it was a struggle and it relied on willpower and I hated every minute of it. And now it's not that painful. Like it's just sort of these gentle, gradual changes that I have to stay on top of that allow me to maintain the weight where I am now.
Yeah. And, and that progress that we talked about is non-linear. We have talked before about how I would quit every time the scale didn't do what I expected it to do. Now, I didn't, when I got away with something, sort of like we talked about on the Driver's Ed episode of like, I should have gained weight this week and I didn't, then I would be like, well, I guess my metabolism is fixed now and I can just eat, pizza pockets all the time now.
Yeah, exactly.
And then I would gain weight and be like, well, no, it doesn't work. The point of all this, dear listeners, I step back a little bit, is that there are going to be circumstances where you gain weekends away with family, vacations, health concerns, things come up, you twist your ankle and you can't go on walks like you could, holiday seasons, all that stuff. Gaining is part of losing. And I gained 20 times while I was losing 100 pounds. And I shudder to think what would have happened in February of 2016, that first time I was up on the scale, if I had just given up and said, well, see, this is just more proof that it's never going to work. I got past that and I allowed for that range because sometimes people, and I think Donald has mentioned this, people have a number that they want to hit.
Yeah.
And they don't think about the range because of all those fluctuations that we talk about.
Yeah. And, I have quote unquote hit my goal weight. And I say that in air quotes. But, 4 years later, I say I've maintained, but I go up and down within about a 10-pound range like all the time. And it's generally indicative of how much I'm sticking to my habits, to whether I'm closer to the top of that range or closer to the bottom of that range. And we talked last week about weighing yourself and how often to do it. One of the reasons I weigh myself once a week is so that I can see visibly when I'm not, even though I may know it, I can, see that evidence of when I'm not sticking to my habits as closely as I would like, because I can see that number creeping back up. And so stepping on the scale and seeing it, then it makes it real and makes me, reinforces the idea that I have to stick to those habits and keep going.
Well, and it's those trends over time. I personally use my Fitbit for tracking my weight and my calories and my steps.
Me too.
I know that there are other apps that specifically just follow weight trends. I think there's one called the Happy app. But find an app that shows your trends over time. For me, looking at the direction I'm generally going in matters. You can also, it's almost like a stock market. If I look at my scale or if I look at my tracker, I go, oh, that was the trip away on the weekend. Oh, that was when we went up for Labor Day. Oh, that's when I, had my time of the month. So I can sort of see those different punctuation marks throughout my process. But trending down matters. And that's where I am right now because I'm up a little bit higher than I would like to be. But I still weigh every day. I still track every day. I still track my calories every day.
Yeah,
that's a little bit of
absolutely. And I think that the overarching point of this part of this episode is to remind everyone that even though Catherine and I both have lost a substantial amount of weight and have achieved our goal weights, our progress was not a straight line. It's a zigzag, just like she just said about the stock market. It goes up a little, it goes down a little. And in the past, anytime it would go up a little, I would use that as an excuse to say, well, this is never going to work. I may as well just quit.
Yeah.
And that never got me anywhere. But knowing that if I just stick to the habits and adjust accordingly, that I can eventually get there has been the key to maintaining the weight loss this time.
Well, and I think too with maintaining, and for those who are just starting out, it might not seem relevant, but all of the people in WOLT place who are maintaining their weight, like when I was in Weight Watchers, I would see people who had hit their goal weight. I'm like, why are they even here? They're fixed. Like, run free. Go to get a donut quick. Like, you've made it to the other side. You graduated.
Yeah.
But really, weight maintenance is about maintaining the habits. And it's sort of like when you get a new car, you don't just go and drive it off the lot and then never get another oil change or get your tires rotated. Maintaining your weight requires the habits that got you to that weight. And so for me, showing up, weighing myself, sticking to my habits really does matter in all of this. And, sort of going back to that before and after, we are not an after photo. We didn't just get stuck at 4 years ago going like, we're done, everybody. My weight has gone up in the last 4 years. I'm about 10 pounds over my goal weight right now. So I'm, at one point I was 155 pounds down. Now I'm about 145 pounds down. But it is not like I hit the number and then I set it and forget it. Circumstances change as we get older. I thought at one point we would be walking every single morning forever and ever and it'd be great. And now we're rebounding. Our circumstances have changed.
Yeah.
Our priorities have changed. I'm doing more weightlifting and yoga than I was before. So goal weights can change. I'm a little bit over my BMI right now, which I would like to get back to, but it's still an ongoing process. I'm not like, okay, I'm here and this is what I'm going to be forever. It's going to change over time.
Yeah, and I think that is a good segue. There's a quote from James Clear in his book Atomic Habits in the first chapter that I think is apropos of this whole thing in terms of, realizing your relationship with the scale. And he says, your outcomes are a lagging measure of your habits. Your net worth is a lagging measure of your financial habits. Your weight is a lagging measure of your eating habits. Your knowledge is a lagging measure of your learning habits. You get what you repeat.
Yeah.
And, what that means is that if you are following habits that are moving you in the direction you want to move and you keep repeating them, then your outcome will end up in the direction that you want it to. But if you don't do that, then it will be the opposite.
Yeah, if we go back to our old habits, we're going to get old results. And that's it. It's not fair. It's not unfair. We're not fixed. It's not that our metabolisms have changed. Sure, we're getting older and hormones affect. But guess what? In the end, what I put in my mouth, if I'm up on the scale, it's not my hormones. It's the 2 weeks of not tracking over Christmas and eating all of the panettone. That was really the culprit all along.
Yeah. And look, we're talking about relationship with the scale. And I think that one of the reasons that I personally get on the scale on a weekly basis is to keep myself honest and to not lie to myself. And, people do this thing all the time where they say, well, I've been so good, but the scale isn't reflecting it. And then they really look and maybe perhaps they're sabotaging themselves on the weekends. They're being like, they're sticking to a calorie goal Monday through Thursday. And then Friday, Saturday, Sunday, they're going well above that calorie goal. Or, and then it's averaging out to them not being in a deficit. Or, the thing that I do over and over again, and I still do now, is I will stick to a calorie goal up through dinner, and then after dinner, I decide, well, I just want to eat whatever I want to eat, and that gets me into trouble. So stepping on the scale is a way to keep yourself honest about what you're doing. And you don't have to do it. You could use other measures. But for me, having that data and looking at it in a non-emotional way and just knowing like, well, this is, proof of that I was either following my habits or not following my habits, and then moving on and going back to following the habits.
Right. And that we did a series called Failure is Feedback about how to use data that you're not super happy with to decide your future choices. And we're gonna change gears a little bit here. We're gonna get a little more serious at this last part of the episode. But in reality, we have been aware of our weights all our lives.
Oh, yeah.
I look back at photographs of me and I can almost to the number remember what weight I was, how self-conscious I was, what limited activity I could do based on the weight that I was, and all of the judgment that I put on myself over the years about my weight and my value as a person. Was I not getting the raise because of my weight?
Yeah.
Was I not popular, whatever? All the things I compensated for because of the number on the scale. And, this problem goes all the way to the top. We have been taught, since we were kids about weight and the importance of it and being made to feel different because we weren't an average size.
Yeah.
And it really impacted me. And so I think acknowledging what an impact that has made on all of us really does matter. All the messages that we received from family and from friends about our weight, it might have been well-meaning, it might have been cruel, but we are here because, and all of our issues are around the scale and the impact of that number. But what I would like to do is to sort of step back for a second. I won't say vision quest because that takes away the somber nature of the end of this.
Especially if you're driving, you don't want to go on a vision quest in the car.
No, pull over, please. But for just a minute, think about the people who matter to you in your life. Your best friend, your grandmother, your spouse, whoever it is. Think of someone in your life that you really love. Think about the times that you've spent together, when you've laughed together, when you were in a dark place and someone came to be at your side, journey adventures that you've had together. Think about that person. Think about the people who mean the most to you, the people that are your ride or die. And if I were to ask you about them, if I said, oh my gosh, tell me about your grandmother, and I interrupted you when you said, well, she made the best, and I stopped you and said, no, I don't care. I don't care what she did. What was her BMI? What was your grandma's BMI? That's what I want to know about. What was the circumference of her hips? Oh, you had a childhood best friend? What did they weigh? What size?
What weight were they at when you loved them the most?
Yeah. Please tell me that.
Which weight made you love them more than when they were at a different weight?
And you would think I was a complete monster if all I wanted to know about anybody in your life was what's their BMI, what's their glucose level, how quick can they run the 50-yard dash or whatever.
Yeah, and ask yourself, have you ever loved somebody more because of their weight? Have you ever loved somebody less because of what they weighed?
And for me, my grandmother passed away when she was 96. I love her with all of my heart. She was maybe a little old-fashioned about the whole weight thing. And, if only you had a more beautiful, your face is beautiful. And if the rest would catch up with
Such
you.
a beautiful face.
My face. 10% of you is just gorgeous. She was flawed. I will tell you that. I can also tell you that 100 things that I loved about her had nothing to do with her number on the scale. The way she made me feel when she wasn't talking about my weight was fantastic. Watching the Golden Girls with her while drinking coffee, all of these wonderful memories. None of them were, oh my gosh, that time she got on the scale and weighed 145 pounds was the best day of my life.
We celebrated so hard.
But we do that to ourselves. We hold our personal value with the number on the scale. And I can tell you right now that all of the people who are meaningful to me in my life, and for all the things that I love about them, the number on the scale was never one of them. And I would ask you to turn that kindness onto yourself. All of the things that are great about you, all of the things that you bring to the world, the love that you bring, the comedy is maybe most important.
Comedy.
please try to extend that same kindness and generosity to yourself, because no one in my life is part of my life because of the number on the scale. And when I pass, I don't think, the obituary that Donald will write will be like, well, Catherine Weigel was 5 foot, 6 3/4. She says 7, but it wasn't really. And her weight was whatever.
Need to be exact.
Yeah.
Need to be exact.
You
about
love
these
numbers.
Things. Yeah.
If all he wrote was my, as though it was like a page out of Playboy magazine, she was, 36, 28, 36, which I'm not. If all it was the various circumference of my body, you would think he was a monster.
Yeah.
But he would talk about how loving I am and how funny.
Yeah.
Just naturally gifted in the funny areas.
It would all be about how
naturally
funny you are,
gifted, how great I am. If all we did was talk about the numbers, that takes away all of our humanity. So though the number on the scale matters, though it is a single data point in a bigger constellation of measuring our health, it is not what makes us valuable as humans. So please, as we're finishing this episode, know that your number on the scale is the least interesting thing about you. It is important for your health and, the impact on your joints and all that jazz. But you as a person...
all that jazz.
I was trying to be serious. Trying to lighten the mood, laugh it up. But it's just one data point, and you are so much more than that. And we thank you for listening and going on this vision quest with us.
Oh,
but
boy.
Please be kind to yourself. Please know that you are worthy of love just as you are on your journey venture.
Yes, indeed. A vision quest that the soundtrack to the musical All That Jazz. Well, if you enjoy vision quests that are accompanied by the musical All That Jazz, thank you so much for listening to this episode. We really, really appreciate it. If you'd like to hear more episodes of this show, they are available wherever you found this one. And also, every episode of the show is available on our website at any time at weonlylookthin.com.
Yep. And if you are at weonlylookthin.com, you can click on the link for Join Our Support Group and find out more.
Oh, yeah, do that.
Find out more about WOLT Place. We Only Look Thin Place. It is our accountability and support group for women based on Facebook. We do a lot of great work in there talking about goal weights and setting those goals for yourself. We do weekly Zoom meetings, newsletter, and it's just a place for amazing support for any stage of your journey. We are there to lend support and some guidance too. So check it out. We have 2 subscription options, a monthly subscription with a 3-day complimentary trial and a 3-month subscription with a 7-day complimentary trial to see if WOLT Place is right for you.
Indeed. So check it out. And you can also check us out on social media. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at We Only Look Thin. Or if social media is not your bag, you can email us to weonlylookthin@gmail.com. We love episode suggestions. We love compliments. We love more compliments. Feel free to email us. And if you have questions, we may eventually get back to you if you send us questions. But we love hearing from you.
Yep. And if you have an extra minute and like what you hear here, please head over to Apple Podcast and leave us a rating and a review. Not only does it boost our mood, but it also helps those looking for podcasts that are inspirational, talk about journey ventures, Vision Quest, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
If they just type in Vision Quest, I'm sure that'll come up under ours.
That's
sure.
Right.
But it really does help boost our ratings and helps other people find our podcast.
Yes, indeed. And if you know somebody who might like the show, tell them about us. We appreciate that. It's one of the best ways in which the show grows and gains more listeners and helps us out. So if you know somebody, if you're in a group online that you think, somebody might enjoy our show, why don't you tell them about us? It helps us out a lot.
Yep.
So if you are looking to go on an audacious, jazzy vision quest, just remember that Catherine and I are an inspiration.
Jazzy.
The information that you hear on this podcast is for informational purposes only. The hosts are not medical professionals. You should always consult with your doctor, nurse, or other certified health professional before beginning any diet or fitness program.